This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by GCals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today.
Hey, what's up, fellow modelers? Will here. Welcome to the Ensign's Chair. It has been over a year since I have worked on this 1350 Klingon Bird of Prey. I put it on hold, I think May 29th or the end of May last year sometime was the last time I put out a video on this. And it's been sitting in the box here since because I've been trying to get these other builds done. There were builds I wanted to have ready for Wonderfest. I was hoping to have this one done, but if I had another week, I'd probably have it done for Wonderfest. But unfortunately, and fortunately, Wonderfest is this weekend, so this will wait till Wonderfest next year. But and that's fine. I've got a model already in the bag, ready to go for Wonderfest next year. But it would have been nice to put it up and have it sit alongside some of the other builds I've seen going on. I know Lou over at Aztec Dummy has just finished a build on this model, and I think SDM Model Works or SDM Productions. Sorry, I don't remember which one it is. I know it's SDM. I know they just finished a build on this as well. So I'm going to finish this one up, and then we're going to get moved on to my Ian Lawrence 1350 Enterprise A tribute build that I'm going to work on. So without any further ado, let's get right back into it, guys. Give me a minute. I'll put you on the bench. We'll get to work. All right. When last we left off, I had just completed assembling the aftermarket posable baffles from Lake Monster Details, and gotten those on there. And I don't think I had decided to make a change. I had used the decal on the back as well, but I decided I'm not going to do that because it's not the way the studio model looks. On the back, there's no design back there. It's just like a grayish baffle, that last panel back here. So I took those off, sanded off the decal, and now I'm going to paint it a gray and get those back in place. You can see I've done my photo etch for these. I guess these are exhaust ports or something with some type of vent. I've got the photo etch in place for that, and I've done a little touching up along the front here where I had to tear this apart at. It's a lot better. I'm going to come and repaint this top area because I still got to repaint this middle part where that kit goes in. So I can get that painted the same green, and that's pretty much it as far as catching up. Now I did decide that I'm going to go a different route with the lighting on the front here. I did have just a single red LED up here to light this photon tube circle up here. Wasn't lighting it very bright, and also if I do that, that means my lights coming out of the windows are going to be red, and I want to keep this to what I think is correct, or looks correct to me anyway, which is more of a yellow or orangish light inside here. So I've got some yellow LEDs, but in order to do that, I've got to block off or section off this ring so that stays lit red. Because if I just put, trust me, I tried right here, if I just put a yellow LED in here, it changes the color of this. So what I'm going to do is right now I've worked up a 3D part that'll insert in here and fit over this, and it's got holes in it for these wires to run out. This wire is for the main flash, the green flash. This one here I added an SMD. You just barely see below that LED. I drilled a hole and I put a small SMD underneath, because what that's going to let me do is get that ramp up effect. This board that I'm using from Starling Tech has a ramp up, and then you get the green flash for the photon. So I've got a yellow SMD in here, and I've still got that part that I minimized from the Golden Armor kit, and that's just going to fit over both of those. and I will probably fill this in with some clear resin. That way you get a nice bright light out of this. So I've got to section this off. I've worked up a 3D part. It's printing now. I've done it at a couple different angles because I've got to get this angle correct in order for it to get a good seal. So these wires, it'll slip over these wires. There's a hole in the middle, and then I've got 3 other holes drilled or made into it to where I can put 3 SMDs, red SMDs around it, which should give this a better light. So that's what I'm working on now. So I'm going to keep working on that. And in addition, I didn't like the way that the wing cannons were turning out. I didn't like I just don't think that the fiber optic was lighting up as bright as I wanted. So what I did was I went back, I tore this apart, I put a piece of brass tubing instead, and I cut the parts off the kit and just glued them in place. And that should turn out just fine. It might be a little bit off, but I don't think it's very noticeable. But so that's what I did to get this, and that allowed me to run an SMD wire through here, which is coming out here. And I will put a set of wires. I'll have to Dremel this a little bit so that I can fit the wires through here. Just put a notch here, and then I'll be able to run the wires up here, and then I'll put a notch on this end so that they can run into the secondary hull or the hull of the ship. And I'm also working on the spotlights on this side. I had to drill these out. I think they were already open on the other side, but for some reason on this side, and I think that's a common thing with this kit, they weren't open on this side. They were closed up. But after I do all that, you can see I've already got this one pretty much done. I'm working on some puttying to remove some seams. So that's drying right now, and I'll get that sanded. And you can see that wing cannon, how that turned out. I think it looks pretty good. And yes, I use the term pretty good a lot because everything's pretty good. And here is the photo etch in place for those spotlights on the front of the wing as well. And I have test lighted this. I'm not going to do it right now because I got a wire resistor back up to it. I had to take the resistor off to fish everything through here. But we'll take a look at that once I get this painted up and finalized and get ready to put it on the model. But I think that's going to work out fine. The bottom section here, I don't think I've really made any changes to, other than I've added the photo etch in place here that comes with the photo etch set. So I've got that around here. That's going to have to be painted at some point. And that's pretty much it. I think you're caught up for now. It's been a little while since I've messed with this model. So hopefully we can get this done so we can start on that Ian Lawrence 1-50 Enterprise A build, tribute build. But give me a little bit. I'm going to do some more work on this stuff, and we'll come back and take a look. All right, so one thing I did want to address on these wings is when you do these wings, the best way I found to do them, and some of this I picked up on after I did the first wing, I wish I knew this ahead of time, was what I did was I put some glue in, and I set this in place, but I just put the glue on the bottom part of the wing, and then set this in there, and then just set the top wing on place so I could line this up and let that glue set. I use the Extreme Power CA glue. Let that glue set enough to where I could take this top part off, and then I put a little more glue on it and hit it with the zip kicker to lock it in place. That way I could work on this wiring. I didn't think of that the first time. Well, actually the first time I was doing the fiber optics. So I didn't know I was going to want to do the SMDs. So I'd already sealed this up. I didn't have this option because I couldn't pull this all apart. I basically had to fish these wires through here. But what I did was that lets me run the wires. It lets me solder them, the SMDs to some more wire. And then up here, the best thing to do, save yourself some clutter inside the hole, is go ahead and do your resistor right here. There's enough room in here for you to do your resistor and cover it over. And then that way you just got your wires coming out. You can just wire everything up. You don't have to worry about putting resistors and having them taking up space inside your hole, because one thing I was looking at was this lighting kit from Starling Tech. This whole thing basically needs to fit in here like that, which isn't going to be a problem. But with the baffle kit in there and then this going in, it's going to take up a lot of room. So I basically need to just go in this way, because that way the engine lights will go in the back here. I'll lift this up so you can get a better look at it. Engine lights will go in the back here, and this board is all wired up, so that's why all the wires are coming off. It's pre-wired. I do have to, there's a couple wires I can remove. I'm not doing the internal lighting using the board. I will power that separately. But so I got to save as much room as I can inside this secondary hull, because that board's going to take up a lot of space. So it just saves some space to go ahead and put your resistors in here. That way I've just got the wires coming out, and then all I got to do is wire everything up. I don't have to worry about doing resistors and all that afterward. Because I've got this light, which runs to my Canon, and I'm also working on putting in these spotlights on the front here. I'm doing the photo etch, and basically what I did was I went and drilled out this hole a little oversized. That way I've got a little more room for light to come out. And what I'm going to have to do is also drill this photo etch a little bit, because that hole is so small, and you can see the difference. I may have to focus this a little bit, but see if I can focus this so you can see this. Maybe I'm going the, oh, that's a zoom. Wrong one. All right. And you can see where this one here, I've already opened those holes up more, and this one, this is how small that hole is initially. So I need to make those holes that hole a little bit bigger, so that more light comes out. Otherwise I just don't see a whole lot of light coming out of that little hole through the photo etch. But I've got the photo etch in place, and all I do to put this photo etch on is just get me a little drop of CA glue on the front here. Oh, I'm out of focus again. Focus this back. And I got this little piece of plastic I just take and I spread it around so I don't have this gushing out when I put this part on. And then what I can do is I can take this piece, this little photo etch piece here, if I can stop chasing it around, and just set it in place there. And that gets that in place. So I've got my photo etch in place on the front there for the spotlights. Looks like I over drilled this hole a little bit. I got to fill it in on the back here. There's a little, oh, too far. Little hole right there on the back where I drilled it out too much. I'll fill that in. That's not a big deal. But get that done. So now all I got to do is drill these two holes out. I'll get a smaller drill bit, drill these two out more, and then I'll put my SMDs in, and we'll come back in a little bit. Stay tuned. Alright, I got this wing wired up, and you can see I've got, grab a little pointer here. I've got all my wires run up through here. I've got my resistors, all resisted up here, and I've got everything secured right here. And just got these wires running out, ready to hook up to power inside the ship. So it makes it a lot cleaner to do this and get these kind of out of the way so they're not sitting in the hull. But let's hook this up, do a quick light test, because another great thing about getting this all wired up is we can light test the whole thing before we seal it up. So plug in a power source. Alright, there we go. You can see our Canon's lighting up nice and bright. And we've also got those two spotlights lighting up. Although it looks like I got this left one in a little bit better lighting position than this right one. But yeah, they'll work. It'll be good. Just got to fix this back here where I drilled through accidentally. But a little putty, that'll be no problem. But yeah, I think that's going to work out real good. So now I can get this sealed up and work on the seams and get that all done. And right now I've got a 3D printed part that I've worked up that I'm working on that'll hopefully help me section off the photon tube from the rest of the internal lighting in here, and that way I can do my yellow lighting inside here and do the red separately for the photon tube. So I've got that printed up now. I'm going to get this sealed up and work on this, and we'll come back and take a look. Alright guys, so I've got the wings primed and they're out there drying right now, and I've been here working on a little project of I painted the engine parts red and then yellow on this side for this bottom one, and this one completely painted red. And there's these details on here that need to be blacked out and then painted, and I usually paint these a gunmetal gray to finish off, but they got to be blacked out, so you need to mask these off. And the easiest way I found to do a lot of masking, if it's large repetitive shapes, or even shapes like this, like these regular square pieces, I'll measure this out and just make the design in my Cricut machine and have that cut the masks for me for these little things here. That way they're concentric, they're the same. I don't have one that's bigger than the other, because you want it to fit right in here, because this grill is what you want to paint. And I might black this out back here too, since this doesn't go all the way to the back. But you want light to come through these parts here. So you need to mask these over, and this needs to be painted. So what I do is that, like I said, parts like this, little cuts like this, and big cuts, if they're concentric, I'll make Cricut masks for them. That way I don't have to keep cutting little masks. I can just have the Cricut machine cut them for me, because I'll use the same ones on the bottom here. You can see there where that photo etch piece is, and you got to mask these off on this side too. So things like that, I'll use my Cricut, just let it cut them. But when I'm doing the more complicated masking, I'll usually just sit here with a piece of tape, and I mean, different people have different ways of doing it, but I'll literally just sit here and cut a shape, and if it doesn't fit perfectly, that's okay. I can come back with another piece just like that and fit it in there. But to me, this has been the easiest way I found to mask off things like this, where you need to do it. You just cut the mask down small instead of trying to cut one big mask. It's easier just to take this a little bites at a time, and just kind of go in here with little pieces of tape and mask these off bit by bit. Because if you've got these little pieces of tape, it gets real easy to mask these off and make the proper shapes that you need without a whole lot of fuss. If you sit here and try to work out one big mask for some of these parts, it's just it can really it can really try your patience. So like I said, what I usually do is just get in here with a piece of tape, and I'll just paste these little pieces wherever they'll fit. Yep, that one's got to come down some. And eventually I'll get this all masked off, and that's how I mask these off. So I'm going to finish masking this off, and I'll paint this, and I'll come back and show you how these turned out. Alright guys, so I got this painted up, and let me zoom in and just focus this a little bit. You can see, kind of looks like gloss black maybe on camera, but it's gunmetal. You can see how that turned out, and see how those masks work there. Let's pull them off. And just be careful about pulling these off, because this is a painted surface under here, so I always try to come in at a shallow angle and pull these masks off. Should grab my tweezers out of the box. I've made this a little bit easier. there's that side. And if you can make it on camera, there's a little bit of tape residue on there. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's an easy way to deal with that. So the great thing about these vinyl masks that my Cricut makes is that they don't tend to leave a residue like some of the masking tape does. These ones I gotta be a little more careful with because these actually curve around the back side. Let's see that little mask. That's all I do with the Cricut. It's just so much easier than repetitively trying to cut pieces of tape that are the same size, or cutting them smaller and then having to shove 2 or 3 pieces of tape in there to fill that little area. It's so much easier to have that Cricut, and it's a good investment if you build a lot of models. That's for sure. You can do a lot of. I've gotten quite a bit of use out of mine making custom masks. So there we go. There's that bottom side, or actually it's the top side of this one. It's supposed to be yellow on one side and then red on the back side. And what we can do is, you got a little bit of tape residue on here. You can just take a little bit of, I use a little bit of airbrush thinner because it's not as aggressive as, say, leveling thinner, which is what I typically use to clean my airbrush with. You just take it and a little Q-tip and just kind of wipe it off. And if it doesn't get it all, that's fine. If you start doing this and you start getting, this is painted clear red, so if I start doing this and I start getting clear red showing up on my Q-tip, I know to stop because I'm starting to pull the paint back off at that point. Let's see, there's no red paint on there. It doesn't take, focus this. It doesn't take a whole lot of paint off when you're doing it with the airbrush thinner. So, but that'll get most of it off. You may still have a little bit on there, but that's fine. I'm going to have to clear coat this anyway, and that'll smooth it out. But that's pretty much it. Those parts are painted. I got this part, and I've already unmasked the top engine part there. So these kind of go in like that. So those are ready to go as soon as I'm ready to start putting the engine parts together. So I'm gonna do some more work, and I got those wings are just about done drying. So I'll bring them in. We'll take a look at those. I might have a little more seam work to do on them. But give me a minute and we'll come back. All right, guys, so here we are. I've got those wings painted up. I haven't done the detail work on it yet. And you'll probably notice it's a little bit of a different color than the rest of this. That's because this has the clear coat on it already. I did the body section completely and then clear coated it, but the wings I haven't done yet. So I've got to detail some panels on here. And I still have to do the red on the underside of the wings. So I'll start working on all that. You know, if I had another week left, I probably would have had this done in time for Wonderfest, but unfortunately I don't have another week, so I'm not going to have this. This will be for Wonderfest next year, I guess. This will be my first build off the line, but probably have one more video left, and we'll get this wrapped up and get started on that 1350 Enterprise A Ian Lawrence tribute build that I'm getting ready to start working on. So we'll get this finished up first like I promised. I still have to work out a base for it yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a miniature version of what I did for the Big Bird or if I'm going to go with something different. I will probably still use the Photon torpedo control panel like I made, just miniaturize it a little bit because I think it's a little bit too big for this scale here. But I did get the wiring done in the head. I did make a little shroud. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the inside. On the inside of the head here, there's a little shroud that kind of covers and separates out this red ring. And it's a little too bright in here. You may not be able to make it out, but let's see if we can. A little bit too bright and sunshiny in here, and the camera's not really picking it up. I think you can pick it up a little bit on the camera, but it's not coming up too well on the camera. But in person, you can see it. You do lose a little bit at the top here, but that's because that shroud has a hard time squeezing up into the front, and it cuts it off just a little bit. But with the lights out, it's really bright. In daylight, yeah, it's a little bit harder to see, but you can see it's there. So pretty happy with the way that turned out. I've got all my orange lighting up the front here. Camera's not picking that up too well in the daylight either, but you can see it some there. But all that's done and ready to go, and now I just got to work out the lighting in the back here and putting that control panel in here and then getting this sealed up. So I'm gonna work on getting this wiring finished up, getting all this rat's nest tidied up and getting that board installed. And when we come back, we'll take a look before I seal this up and see what we got, and then I'll start working on this painting as well and finalize this. But like I said, I think one more episode will be able to wrap this up and get on to the next build. But anyway, guys, appreciate everybody for watching. Appreciate everybody that's subscribed and is enjoying or getting some use out of these videos. And please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button down below. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you get something out of these videos, please just give me a little thumbs up down the bottom there. So I know this is getting through to people and people are actually getting some use out of these. But again, please, as always, visit my partners in crime, Cass over at Lake Monster Details and Gus over at G-Cows. All the links for those are always in the notes below. So again, guys, hope to see some of y'all at Wonderfest this weekend. Thank you for watching. Till next time, keep modeling.